Alta, who is a robot, by the way. She was in her own room, kneeling by her bed, almost like she was praying. As I came closer, I could see that she was crying, and this surprised me because I knew Alta was a machine. I didn't know what to say, but I wanted to comfort her, and she looked over at me teary-eyed as I spoke to her. Alta, I guess I really hadn't thought about how hard it was for you to have your crew die, and now that you're alone. I know that you were friends, and having to complete their mission by yourself, now alone, has got to be difficult, I said.
That is sad, of course, but it is not why I'm crying.
Alta replied. Then why are you crying, I asked. Sobbing as she spoke, Alta responded.
I'm crying because of our visit to heaven. You see, I have no soul and thus no eternal destiny. I will never get to live in heaven or hell. God does not want me. But the success of this mission for his sake still lies with me. I must defeat all that hell throws at me. I must protect you, and I must return to share the truth of your God with my own world and others. You, Tom, are part of God's creation. You can look forward to being rewarded in heaven for the risks and the troubles you're taking. But I don't get to have the final reward of the just, even though I have been the champion of the just. Even to the demons, I am just a thing.
A fresh burst of sobs breaks out. So the real point here, folks, is that at some point, if there are people out there anywhere, somebody, some future Paul, is going to have to take responsibility to reach them. It might not be exactly the way we expect it to be. At any rate, we examine all these things in some detail in each of the 3 books. The purpose of the first book is to establish the challenge. The second book is all the persons and persona that would carry out the challenge. And the third book, You Arrive. And it's a lot of work for us to deliver on heaven, hell, purgatory, and saving the entire universe. So book 3 took a little longer, much to the chagrin of my media team. Which I need to thank, by the way. Let me quickly do so. Dustin and Olivia are here today, and Eric is not here. Our creative group, which comprises our editors and artists, Rosemary, who just read, and Sarah, would you raise your hand, who's our lovely artist and also a fine editor. And then our theological group, which are Father Pollard and Vaughn, and now perhaps Father Richardson also will be joining us. So the 3 separate teams are the ones that I work with in order to make all this go, and I'm accountable to all of them. My life is no longer my own. I'm up till 1:30 at night making deliverables. If you text me at 1:30, I will text back to you right away. Anyway, that concludes my presentation, except to thank our lovely CUAs, Barnes & Noble, one more time, and mention that they do have book studies here also. And it was the summer program, I think you indicated.
Just book club. Review fiction, nonfiction every month.
Now, when this is over, some of you might say, gee, that guy'd be a fun guy to have a few beers with. If so, I'll be down at the CUA Vine down here on the left, and any of those of you who want to come and talk over a beer or two will be there, because we don't have to move our cars out the door, down, and to the left on the other side of the same street. Any questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Was there a particular event or something that happened that inspired you to write a book?
In 1969, in October, I was in, my first Boy Scout camp as an 11-year-old. And Bill Earl and I were out in the middle of a field in the Franciscan monastery in Howard County, lying on our backs, looking up at the stars, looking at the entire galaxy. We're sitting there. We knew church was the following morning. And I said to Bill, you know, Bill, you can see the whole hub of the galaxy from here. And he said, yeah. And I said, you know, I wonder if they're looking back. If they're having weddings and driving cars and have Boy Scouts. And Bill said, yeah. And I said, I wonder, we have church tomorrow. I wonder if God came to them or just here. And Bill said, yeah. Absolute true story. And we were both class of 76 in high school at Woodlawn. And for whatever reason, I had a series of dreams after this that I just found to be somewhat unforgettable. And I remembered I was taken in by my parents for IQ testing. And they said, Mrs. Flynn, your son has a very high IQ. But David, 9/10 of your brain is subconscious. You don't know what it's up to. And being an 11-year-old, I said, no way in hell it's getting away with that. So I got my cereal box, took off 2 box tops, found the alarm clock on the back, sent in $2 and 2 box tops, and got a little blue and green alarm clock. Set it for 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. A little yellow notepad by my bed, woke myself up and wrote down my dreams to spy on my subconscious. The content of those notes is what constituted much of this story. And that's how it came to be. Me spying on my subconscious. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Comment for an observation and then a question. Your analogies and metaphors, this isn't a criticism, aren't necessarily new. In a good way, during the golden age of science fiction, there was a lot of science fiction authors who made the same analogies quite frequently. On to my question.
Well, cite your ones that you'd like to, that you're thinking of in particular.
Since easiest example is Heinlein, some early Clark, and a few of the others who.
Now, neither of these men professed Catholicism or Christianity.
No, they hopped around a bit.
Were there any Catholic or Christian authors that
Yes.
you'd like to put in that list?
I totally forget the guy's name, but he literally wrote the book on psychological warfare. I do know that.
Well, anyway, go ahead with your question.
Council Gold for Leibowitz. I forget the name.
Well, anyway, fire away with your question.
An observation I've had, I'm curious if you had the similar observation or noticed. A lot of atheists and agnostics, it isn't so much that they disbelieve due to science, they actually disbelieve they want to, and they reveal, I've seen that they've revealed they don't actually know science as well as they claim to.
Have you ever been to a Mensa meeting?
No.
If you go to a Mensa meeting, the first thing you realize is everybody's terribly smart and they have faith in absolutely everything but religion. That's the one profound, I knew I didn't fit in. Because they're all brilliant people. But they had faith in everything but religion. If their wife called up and said, honey, I'll be home in 15 minutes, they just said, okay, like it really was their wife, and there was no doubt there. What's up with that? They pull up to a stoplight, it turns red, and they didn't sit and think, oh, wait a minute, could it be green and I'm just seeing red? And they stop their car. What's up with that? My sense of humor is losing you guys, isn't it? Anyway, I hope that helps. Go ahead.
Do you think the fact that there's such a strong Catholic message will intimidate, scare off, keep people who aren't already part of the fold from reading your books?
Well, let me talk about an experience that Dustin and I both had to answer that question. You'll remember this, I'm sure.
I hope so.
I got an email from the Knights of Columbus for a Scott Hahn book. Smarter than me, better looking, better writer, more religious, and he's got a PhD. So, I'm the sorry sister. But here I am, an author of a Catholic book, focused on evangelism, getting an ad from the Knights of Columbus, which I am, to go get a Scott Hahn book. Now, I could read that book cover to cover, and I would still be just as dedicated to God as I am right now. The Knights are promoting this. So I called up the Knights National Communication Office and said, "Geez, this is a great thing that you're doing. How can I get my book on that list? Wouldn't you like to expand the footprint of the Catholic Church rather than just keep resaving the saved?" I mean, I'll admit, all his stuff is better than all of my stuff, but my stuff's meant for the people who you haven't got, right? The guy talked to me for 30 minutes on the phone. And he said, we'd actually like to re-own Christmas. The secret with this group is to take an approach that they haven't already rejected. That they haven't already rejected. I was in a pro-life discussion with somebody, and one of the women said to me, she was a liberal news media person, and she said, it can't survive outside the womb, so it's not a life. And so I said to her, the cicada's underground for 17 years, then it comes up in a different form. A man's in a submarine, he can't open the hatch. A guy in space can't open his visor. Nothing in this universe survives outside of its intended environment. Because nothing survives outside of its intended environment does not mean that it isn't a spaceman, a submarine rider, or a cicada, or a living human being inside a woman. So it was all a matter of redefining the terms in a way that was amenable to making my point, which is what the books attempt to do. Redefine the terms in a way that makes an amenable argument. Now, the toughest question I get from crowds like you guys is, what if one of these space civilizations didn't fall? Have any of you pondered that during the course of my discussion? What if they didn't fall? Hey, come on in.
Thanks. I'm sorry. Sorry for being so late.
What if one of the civilizations did not fall? So I really looked into this because I got this question everywhere I went. And if you look carefully at what the fall was, it wasn't Cain and Abel. Nobody was murdered. The fall was an act of disobedience toward God. They took a bite of the apple. They were locked outside the garden. The cherubim with the flaming swords prevented them from getting back in and eating from the tree of life. But the fall was just a single act of disobedience. Now, could God make an entire civilization somewhere out here in Andromeda that didn't fall? Well, let's look at what we already know. God made a whole lot of human beings, and if I had to take a wild guess, many are called and few are chosen, so most of them will probably fall. God made a whole bunch of angels that are probably a whole lot better than us, and a third of them fell. So could God have made a group of aliens that are basically humans like us, where none of them disobeyed God at all? And they're so perfect that for whatever reason they don't even show up in the Bible. They're even more perfect than the angels because they never fell, because a third of the angels did. I find it an implausible suggestion. So the platform for the book suggests that of all these civilizations out there that God made, there is an inbuilt need for God and for the church. And the minute Kepler finds, and they've already found 3,000 planets, 750 of which are likelies, if you will. Some of them are hell planets, but they're actually known as planets. If they find life anywhere, the Catholic Church immediately has a problem. And that is, do they fall under the Divine Commission? I'm doing all the talking.
I know that, for instance, the movie Interstellar, they had a renowned physicist, astrophysicist, serving on the team as a science advisor to at least render plausible some of the things they did were possible. Do you have a science advisor, or is your...
Let me say something about Interstellar. Golly, it could be a whole separate talk. If you had the capability to build a singularity that was useful to you for travel like they did in Interstellar, why in the world would you put it in Jupiter's space? 500 million miles away from where you needed it. And if you had the capability to build a singularity, why would you have a food shortage on Earth? We can control the powers of the universe, but we can't make enough Wheaties? When I started this whole project, the first thing I did was start calling around the various colleges to find people who could help me with my basic concepts, which you'll see elicited in Chapter 2. The ergocentric plasticity of space and all these things. A lot of that came from the people that I work with at University of Maryland College Park, who are working on early galaxy formation. Early galaxy formation is something that's particularly fascinating to me, and if I go back into school again, it'll be for a PhD in astrophysics in precisely that category. The professor that I was working with left the university and was replaced by someone else who sent me off to Northwestern to get my advice on some of the basics in physics that I have used. Now, you'll learn that I am using modified Newtonian dynamics, which is from an Israeli physicist. And I'm also using the lens-Thirring effect, which isn't a design of my own, but I generalize it out to far greater effective range than lens-Thirring, and frame dragging is elicited. But all of these things that I get from other people who are in the sciences who've developed them, and I adopt them. Then when I need to, I have to put in a call to University of Maryland, where I went to school. People have been very nice in helping me. But I don't have a regular staff of science people because it's science fiction. And I have more than enough science background to handle the kind of stuff that we have to deal with in these kind of books. One of the biggest problems we've had with a lot of the books that we've read that were in competing areas was that they were being written by staff rank and file Catholic authors, but they had no science background at all. Now, is it something that will be a change that I elicit in the future? Well, it depends on the kind of reviews and criticisms I get. And of all the reviews and everything that I've gotten, I haven't gotten a criticism in science yet. So,
are the main issues you're dealing with just primarily time travel across the distance to get from one galaxy to the other? Because from your demonstration that we participated in, that to me seems like that's the biggest issue you're really dealing with.
Well, there's a subtlety there that I didn't share. From the priest's perspective, he would appear in Andromeda instantly the minute he opened the door of the ship. On his clock. On our clock, it would be 2 million years later.
Yeah, you were talking about what would happen to your life.
So if he flew back here, it'd be 4 million years later.
Yeah.
Right? To get another load of priests. The problem is, it's just simply too much distance to be resolved in this way. And 5 billion years back in time, space speeds up. It's falling off a cliff. Space is moving much faster, which is coincidentally how old the Earth is, 5 billion years. Funny coincidence. At any rate, I do spend a lot of time in detail on this and getting my facts right. And if you're a fan and you have any scientific criticism whatsoever, call and email me, because I have put out entirely new versions to change a miscalculation on speed travel that I went through and refined in the second book months ago.
Thanks. And I guess many people who read science fiction are not equipped with a PhD in astrophysics.
Well, I'm not a PhD in astrophysics, but if I go back a third time to graduate school, yeah, lens-Thirring is fascinating to me. It's my belief, and I describe it in the book, that when we look at all the movement of the stars going around the galaxy that we believe are a rationale for dark matter, what we're looking down at is the galaxy moving invisibly. So it's like taking a spinner on the front of your drill, putting it in a paint can, spinning up the paint and putting pepper on it, and everything's moving. It's not moving because the pepper's moving, it's moving because the paint is spinning. And this happens when that early infall gravitationally happens. The quasar blows out its 2 arms, right? As it begins to spin, it not only stretches out matter, it also stretches out space.
So I think we're going to wrap it up at 7:30. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Thanks for your questions. Over here, actually, I should have put pencils on your chairs, but we would love to get your thoughts on Dave's presentation here. In terms, we have a few questions we'd like you to just kind of address as to the quality, because we're always looking to try to get better. As Dave noted on the survey, only God is perfect, and he wants to come closer to that. Additionally, as he said, we're going to be down the street, and then if you want chocolate or some samples, they're up here. If you want to be in touch with Dave, get the date on his new book, which is coming out in July, Battle of the Queens. Be sure to sign up here for his updates. And contact information is on the handout you have.
And please don't hesitate to patronize the bookstore, because there are a lot less of them nowadays, much to our chagrin. A lot of them have closed down. It's nice to be able to go in and actually touch a book.
Yes, thank you so much, Catholic U, for having us. And Morgan, thank you.
Can I mix trash with water? How many of you guys are thinking you might want to go down the street and have a few beers down at CUA Vines? You don't happen to have a big science background, do you?
No, I don't. It's not here.
Because we're always looking to draft more people.
Say no.
Philosophy.
I mean,
Yeah, I have no problem with that at all. I have no ego with being beaten. Because as my editors will tell you, I still know the difference between worse and worst. And don't use prior in this book ever again.
I have a question for you while they're filling out the forms. What is it about science fiction that to you makes it fitting for the communicating evangelization?
Perfect question. When we die, we believe that we are going to go to heaven and we are going to be like... Who's the guy who played Iron Man, Rosemary?
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, like Robert Downey Jr. We're going to have all kinds of capabilities and power and everything. We believe it's going to be fantastically fun, wonderful. They had me do an op-ed on heaven, and I had to do the 4 faces of heaven and then the dynamic view, which hopefully will be coming out in another couple weeks. We believe that as Catholics. We believe as Christians that we're up for a reward where we're going to have the kind of abilities that they have in Avengers, or more. And we're going to be happy, and we're going to be going into eternity. That's what we believe. This is like Hogwarts, or vampires, or zombies, or 50 Shades. So it's perfect because what I'm doing is, I'm just saying, yeah, it really is like that. That's why it's such a fit, because all I've done is just put the meat on the bones of what we already believe. So I really didn't invent anything. I just put the flesh on the ideas we already have. If that makes sense. Guys, thank you again.
And I can come around and collect your forms if you're done filling them out.
So, the bar that you're directing people to is actually Brooklyn.
Brookland Pint?
Yeah.
Brookland Pint down on the left. So sorry. I asked you 4 times and I got it wrong every one.
It's okay. CUA Vine, what's your name? It should be like a wine.
It sounds like there should be a...
Brookland Pint. Brookland Pint down on the left.
Okay. CUA Vine is great name for a bar, though.
I know. You guys should do this.
So is this pretty standard? Or?
Yeah.
If you like, I appreciate you doing all this. I hope our sense of theater made you happy. Just sign my name? Just sign my name? I was afraid.
Okay. Oh, demos of that. Yeah, yeah.
So interesting to you at all?
Yeah, definitely.
That's about right.
interested in medicine.
You're right at 50%.
I always found that interesting.
Usually you get 90% of people who say yes, and a third of people say maybe.
I mean, we were looking around and suggested for someone who's made this suggestion. Normally the people that do LS are C.S. Lewis.
You just don't like the last
Yeah, I mean, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien was Anglican at first. I mean, C.S. Lewis
So
was
5%,
Anglican,
5%
and
turnout.
Tolkien, of course, was Catholic. 50% the word Catholic, so
I'd say
church,
5%.
was never in his books. And Tolkien and Foster knew each other.
Yeah.
Regretted that when he finally converted, he didn't convert to Catholic. He converted to Anglican.
above a decimal point.
So,
It's always up.
Yeah.
I would suggest consider giving it a thorough evaluation before you say the same exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, we're gonna take this is the only thing I'm going for.
This is
Oh, yes.
just from my perspective.
I do too. Yeah, we can study.
It's influenced a lot of my writing.
Slowly became everybody.
Yes, so I'm organic.
Yeah, I think I
So let's I know, I don't mind. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but how long, you know, usually parents are.
A while. Oh, that makes sense. Yes.
Did you pick it up in that
So I
or?
understand.
He took piano lessons.
Yeah. We try not to have
7 or 8. And then I started organizing my members and I got fired from working Catholic teenagers. And I decided to go. And my teacher was like, you should start taking lessons.
Yeah.
So I did, and I got started.
Or did Steven or
Yeah, she took piano lessons too. Before voice lessons. Yes.
The ones I get, I understand and stuff like that.
Oh, because I was talking to Katie, I said, you know, we're looking for a very transparent. This is just very really easy.
Nice to meet you. I've heard your name many times. Very good to meet you in person.
This is for the priest that Katie used to sing for.
Well, I'm going to keep an eye on that.
So she moved from St. Rose to St. Gabriel.
So is it St. Gabriel's?
It's St. Gabriel.
Okay. Where is it?
It is important.
Are you interested in this kind of stuff?
So it's probably about six
Wow.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
close together. Wow.
And all boys, too.
Hi. Your wife is a noble woman. She survived to their age, so that is a good sign. She made it past the D2, 3, and 4. That is impressive.
Just barely.
Yeah, heard of it. Yeah, little D and Orange 2, they're 14, 15.
It's no longer in.
Well, they're gonna take a break.
Depending on what control they use. They may be just fine, but yeah,
They're boys, I mean, they're normal boys.
yeah. Well, you know,
Okay.
Maybe not at the moment, but I'll let you know if I change my mind.
Okay, I give you a card, you know.
Okay.
Well, did the reading go well?
At First Fridays we have free food and drinks and stuff like that. This Friday we're having
Now we
Chinese
give you
food.
4 dishes.
We have a vegan dish if you're interested.